Also, after with the order of events today, I will put it in the chat again, and I'll do an introduction, then there'll be speakers, then we'll take a photo of everyone, we'll have a song, and then I'll also be reading the messages in the chat. Some of them, if anyone feels they want to give a comment or something like that, I'll talk a little bit more on that later, because obviously I won't be reading out anything that's disrespectful or discrimination, or that denies science, because the science is in, and that's why we're here. So just letting you know. And then we'll do a closing as well. So yeah.
We are here to protest on taking climate action on our planet now before it's too late, so that we can still have our planet all nice and beautiful for generations to come.
We know that the government's going to create jobs in the gas industry, and we can't let that happen. And everyone knows the solution to the problem, but the politicians just don't see it as worth their time or money to fix it, but they'll eventually have to listen if we keep protesting like this.
We saw last summer, Black Summer, over 46 million hectares of land destroyed, 500 million wildlife destroyed, and 417 people killed. Will we let this be repeated without action? This is my question, and this is why I'm here today, to make sure we fund our future, not gas.
We're here because of the school strike for climate, and I think we need to change our ways, because if we don't change, we won't have our future.
Climate change is such a big issue globally, and we really need to act now. We need to educate ourselves, we need to educate the next generation, and our government really needs to help us with that.
We need to start living with the concept that Indigenous communities have been living with for tens and thousands of years, which is that we are not disconnected from our environment. We are totally dependent on our planet and on our environment. We depend on it for our food, for our water, for our medicine, and for our homes. We are not here to save the planet, we're here to save ourselves. Okay, thank you so much to everyone for being here today. I'm very excited for the session today. Thank you so much. I would like to begin with an acknowledgement of country. I would like to pay, I'm coming from Wadawurrung land, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys are as well. So I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And I believe that many of us have a lot to learn from the Indigenous nations of Australia, in that their ability to respect and live in harmony with the land. And so I would like to pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the land in which we gather. Okay, so I'm really excited for today. We're here because we're striking from school to tell our politicians to take our future seriously, to treat climate change for what it is, a crisis. They can show us that they care by taking urgent action to move Australia beyond fossil fuel projects such as the Adani mega coal mine, and funding our future and not gas, and get the job done of moving to 100% renewable energy for all. And that's why we're all here today. My name is Alex Marshall. I'm a student. I'm a climate activist like many of you here today. And I've been involved in many campaigns such as the Fight for the Bite, declaring climate emergency at council, and part of organisations such as Cleaner Coast. We'll begin with housekeeping. So I said just a couple of minutes ago, at the end of today, I'll be reading out some of the messages in the chat. So if anyone wants to say anything, anyone has any comments or anything that they really enjoyed when we listened to our speakers, please feel free to put that in the chat and I'll go through and read them out. And also I would like to remind everyone that in the chat, we have to be respectful, no discrimination. And again, we will be talking in a way that no science denial, because the science is in and that's undeniable. So thank you for that. And if you disobey any of these rules, if you're disrespectful or anything, we'll get our technical moderator Mick to remove you from the Zoom call. Also, we have a very exciting thing. I'll get Mick to put it in, but if you guys would like to put a virtual background up of the climate strike in Geelong, we've got a photo there. There's a few people. We've got Mick's got it, Ben's got it. It's really great. My computer doesn't work, so I can't have it, but we will put in the chat some instructions and where you can download this virtual background so we can all be at the Geelong Hall. So yeah, we can go through that now. So click that link to download the photo. And then it'll probably go to your download folder. And then in the bottom left corner of your Zoom, you'll have to turn your camera off so you can change your your background. And then go to select virtual background. And then you click on the little plus button on the right above backgrounds to select add image. You have to click the little arrow next to the camera. That's where you find choose virtual background. And then something will pop up, then there'll be a little plus and you can add the image that you've downloaded. And then you'll be at the Geelong Hall at the climate strike, which is fantastic. It's great to see there's lots of people doing it, so that's awesome. And I'll let people just continue to do that as I go on. So thank you for that. We're also recording this session so we can post it to social media so anyone who couldn't make it today can have a watch and join in. And also towards the end after the speakers, we'll do a little photo shoot of everyone here, which is awesome. Okay, I would like to acknowledge a few people who are here. There's a few representatives from different groups. We've got Fridays for Future who organised this event along with School Strikes for Climate and also along with many other individual students and activists. So thank you to everyone who made this event possible today. And also Geelong Sustainability, who has provided us with this Zoom account, which is fantastic. So thank you for that. We also have Thrive for Our Future here. We've got Red Rebels, School Strike for Climate, obviously. We've got representatives from SCEAT, which is Surf Coast Environmental Action Team. We've got Mick and Tony from the Sustainable Hour. We've got representatives from Cleaner Coast. And we've also got a few politicians and political candidates, especially for council elections. We've got Sarah Hathaway, we've got some Put Climate First candidates, Monica Winston, Belinda Moloney and Elise Wilkinson. And we also have the MP for Corangamite, Libby Coker here as well. So thank you for all turning up. All these people are here to listen to the concerns of young people and hear what we have to say. So please feel free to reach out and contact them to let them know of any of your concerns, what you hope they're doing, and yeah, any questions or queries. If any of those candidates or politicians would like to put contact details in the chat, feel free. So anyone here can contact you. So what will happen today is we'll go through the speakers. We will, so we'll go through, we've got about 5 speakers who all speak for about 1 to 5 minutes each. And then we'll do our photo shoot. We've also got a song by Abigail Grace. And then I'll be going through reading a few of the chat messages and then a closing. So very exciting stuff today. And yeah, so let's get into it. The first speaker we've got is Neo Williams, and I did see him here. I'd like to just do a mic check from you, Neo.
Hello.
Brilliant. You ready to speak?
Yeah, I've got all your stuff here.
Yeah, awesome.
Alrighty.
All right, thanks,
G'day,
Neo. Take it away.
my name's Neo, and I've been sort of a activist in about as many different social causes as I can count on my hand. So I think the climate one's probably the most important out of them all at the moment. And today I'm just going to talk about how, for the past 22 years, the Liberal parties had the same policy on climate change. So 22 years ago, the film Kurt and Courtney was showing at the Sundance Film Festival. 22 years ago, the 90s were in full swing, and 22 years ago, the film Titanic became the highest grossing film ever. And also 22 years ago, which is probably more important, was John Howard and the Liberals decided to oppose any climate reform in this country, saying that on issues like the Tokyo Protocols, that we had special reasons why we didn't have to sign up. And ever since, the Liberals have not changed this ancient policy. When eventually the wheels did begin to turn with the EFTS, I think it is, the very minimum climate policies began to trickle into law. The first move Tony Abbott did when he came into the prime ministership in 2013 was to abolish the carbon tax. Then a few years later, when the word climate even slipped past Liberal censors through the mouth of Malcolm Turnbull, he was out with the new and in with the old. When students began protesting en masse quite a few years ago, they called us alarmists and conspiracy theorists. You know, I think a lot of people, I think some people even called us like, oh, these are climate terrorists and stuff like that. But when, you know, we gave the warnings and they were not heeded, and one summer caused, you know, one bushfire incident, which is one of many, many different issues that climate inaction will cause, caused 500 million native animals to be incinerated, 46 million acres of land, 3,500 homes, and 417 people, all gone because of inaction on what is fairly preventable issue. You know, the issues were so heavily exacerbated by climate inaction, underfunding, so many of these issues that are so commonplace. So what will be the cost in California and Brazil, where we're seeing fires at the moment? What will be the cost next year? Will we be taking off the surgery masks for COVID and putting back on the smoke masks like we did over last summer? And it is to this backdrop that Scott Morrison and the Liberals have taken up the oh-so-noble task of expanding the fossil fuel industry in the name of jobs and money in a dying and expensive industry. In the face of the fact that without federal funding, hello. Sorry, there was just a very cute dog come up to me. Hello. In the face of the fact that without federal funding, renewables beat fossil fuels every day of the week. Even though we saw the cost of fossil fuels when skies turned black on 40-degree days, we felt the cost of fossil fuels in our throats and in our lungs when smoke was thick in the air. We felt the collective grief when 417 people died in bushfires. But the only thing the Liberals felt was the fattening of their pockets on archaic policies paid for and funded by fat cats at Adani and the Minerals Councils. So when the government tells us the cost of new gas will fuel the future, remember the price has already been paid. Remember the lives which could never be measured in gold. And remember the faces of those who made these choices. Fund our future, not gas.
Thank you so much, Neo. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Well done. Next, we have another student, Ben Pocock, and he's speaking about why he's striking. Ben, can you do a mic check for me?
Hello.
Hi, awesome. Go for it, Ben.
I've joined this fight for the climate because gas is just as bad as coal and oil, and it will hurt our planet just as much. Also, I don't want to have to worry about our climate and that there might be a bushfire when we're on holidays, or that there are droughts everywhere and food's more expensive and things like that, or that we do recognise that the economy is broken and it has to be fixed, but there are other ways to fix it than the gas industry, and it's actually cheaper to run a wind farm than a gas plant, so that would make more money, and it's worth fixing this economy problem and helping to combat climate change in one go, rather like by using renewable energies rather than gas. And one thing to say to politicians, how do you feel if our places were reversed and the politicians at some point have to come to their senses and start listening to the science?
Brilliant, Ben, thank you. Very well said, thank you. Next we've got Harper Bolton from SCEAT. So SCEAT is the Surf Coast Environmental Action Team, and Harper's going to tell us a little bit about what they do, because it's always great to hear about things that are actioning, things that are happening, because that's how we're going to fight for systemic change. So thank you. Harper, can you do a mic test for me? There we go. I'll just ask you to yeah.
I'm from a small group called SCEAT. Our group consists of 6 young teenagers who all want to make a difference. We realise that together, even in this small group, we can make a big difference. I've just recently joined, but before this, we've done a lot of beach cleanups, and they did the, I don't know what it's called. Yeah, and so we're now organising a trivia night, which is the funds for that is going towards planting trees down at in the Surf Coast area, and that is this Friday, and it's on our Instagram page at s.c.e.a.t, and so yeah, fund our future, not gas.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Harper, and the stuff you guys do at SCEAT is really fantastic, so thank you. Next we've got Kate Griffin to speak about Cleaner Coast and the event we've got coming up this weekend. Thanks, Katie. We'll get you to test your mic.
Hello.
All good, go for it.
All good. Hi everyone. As Alex said, my name is Katie Griffin. I'm a high school teacher in Grovedale, full-time. In my spare time, I volunteer for Cleaner Coast with Alex. Cleaner Coast is a non-for-profit organisation that does events in and around the Surf Coast, like picking up rubbish and things like that. We try to make our events inclusive and accessible, and they are a celebration of where we live. You know, we love this area, we love this coast, and we want to protect it. So this weekend we're running a Corona cleanup. Normally our cleanups would be based in one area and everyone would come down and we'd have a bit of a party afterwards. But given how kind of crazy the world is at the moment, we're doing it a little bit different. So this weekend you can participate anywhere in the world. We've got people participating in Spain and in France and in Ethiopia. So you can participate wherever you are. You just need to go outside, take some bags to put some rubbish in, pick up some rubbish around your community or around your beach, whatever your favourite park, and then take a photo of it or of yourself with your rubbish, upload it to Instagram and Facebook, tagging hashtag Corona Cleanup and a Cleaner Coast, and you can go in the running to win some really cool prizes. The major prize pack has a zoo zoom with wildlife exposure. So they're a group down here that protects animals, so you get to hang out with all your animals there, and Xavier from Wildlife Exposure will take you all through it. There's some wine to be won because we all need a glass of wine at the moment. And yeah, so that's happening this weekend. So you can find all the information on Facebook and Instagram at Cleaner Coast. And yeah, it should be really fun. It should be really good to see everyone involved and kind of joining an online community rather than meeting up in person. So it'll be really fun. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Katie. Appreciate it. Thank you. So next we'll be doing a song by Abigail Grace. And it's called Society Has Closed the Door. So Mick, I believe, is going to play that for us. So thank you. Abigail's from Geelong.
Society has closed the door on every open mind. It's captured all the innocence, lost its reason to be kind. What is this world coming to? Global warming, hunger, violence and drug use. People hurting, people dying. No one's trying, no one's trying. There's another needle here to fade, another life is taken. Gone in seconds, unable to start again. The temperatures are rising, and the world is slowly dying as they lie about what's really going on. What's really going on. Another child is starving, and morning night go hungry every day. Nearly 3 million a year face abuse, other left battered, raped, abused. Tell me that's not a broken-hearted world, a broken-hearted world. Society has closed the door on every open mind. It's captured all the innocence, lost its reason to be kind.
Thank you so much for that. It's really great to see people turning creative and artistic talents towards making a difference and making change. So thank you. Is Abigail here today? I was trying to look for you. Speak out if you are, so you can comment on your song. Well, I can't find her. That's okay. But Abigail's a Geelong artist, so that's really awesome to have someone so talented down our neck of the woods. So thank you for that. And next we'll have our final speaker, Zoe Brittain, who will be discussing her PhD, because it's really interesting and very relevant what she's doing. So Zoe, can I have a mic test from you, please? Yeah. Does that work now?
Yes, that does.
Thanks.
Over here. Awesome. So I thought instead of just talking about my PhD, I thought I'd tell, I guess, a little bit of a story about why I'm here today, and the PhD is definitely a part of that. But I think back to when I was young and growing up, and every summer I was lucky enough to spend with my grandparents in country Victoria over in the east. And I remember spending every summer laying in the grass, looking between the blades and watching the beetles go about their business, or running up to trees and hugging them, trees so tall that when you looked up, you couldn't even see the tops, or running with my cousins to the top of a hill, exhausting ourselves through the bracken just to get there and take the freshest breath of air you could ever taste. And I think that's really where my love affair with the world around me began. I remember in high school after Black Saturday, where we ran a donation and everybody was raiding their own pocket money to donate to help support these communities. And our teachers were telling us that we could support these people, and that scientists were working very, very hard to make sure that this wouldn't happen again, and that this would not be a part of our future. And so I decided to become one of those scientists, and that's what brought me to Geelong in the first place, to study environmental science. And 6 years later, I'm still here, and I started my PhD. And I'm lucky enough to be working with Maori and Aboriginal traditional owners, exploring their traditional knowledge around seaweed use. You see, seaweed, it's a bit of a power item at the moment. It's going to help us with the future of food security. It provides incredible habitat to local animals. It can help cows fart less, so there's less pollution in the air. And it also plays a really important role in trapping carbon in our oceans. And so we're working with traditional owners to figure out, well, which ones are the best to eat and how can we best care for it? But you see, seaweed isn't doing that great. Each year, with successive heat waves, we're seeing more and more of our seaweed ecosystems damaged beyond repair. We're losing this habitat and these potential resources. And I'm spending my time looking for solutions that won't work unless action is taken on climate change. Last year, I was lucky enough to get married to my now husband, Wayne. Well, we eloped. We actually eloped in a beautiful national park in Western Victoria. And the thing about being a young family is you think a lot about the future. Now, recently, politicians on both major parties have come out and said that our future is gas-powered and there'll be mining jobs to support everybody. But all I can think about is the future isn't gas and mining jobs. The future is my children won't see those beetles in the grass as we're losing all of our insects. They won't be able to hug the trees that I hugged because they've all been burnt in the fires over the summer. They won't be able to have the breath of fresh air if we think about all the children born underweight from the pollution from the Hazelwood fires in Victoria. I think about how we talk about jobs, but jobs aren't important if there's no food, there's no clean air, and there's nowhere safe to live. I also think about how this isn't even the future. This is now. We have islands in the Pacific sinking whilst their closest neighbour, Australia, does nothing to help. And in fact, our politicians laugh about it in Parliament. I think about how Aboriginal sites are destroyed to make way for mining, despite the fact this is in direct opposition to international law that we're a signatory to. And I think about this all the while our politicians lack the vision to give us an innovative future full of hope. And I try not to think about this too hard, really, because it's all a bit depressing. So instead, I spend time with people like all of you today, with like-minded people. And I think, well, if politicians lack the vision to plan for us a better future, we will come up with our own vision full of hope. We have the solutions, we have the power, and politicians will either get with the program or they will be held accountable for their lack of action. I'm here today joined by people who spend their spare time writing letters, planning protests, and speaking to these politicians, demanding action on climate justice. And I do that, and it makes me think maybe the solutions I'm working towards in my PhD aren't for nothing. maybe the future of my family is a little bit brighter. And I just wanted to say thank you everybody for joining me today. And I hope we walk forward into the future holding politicians accountable and looking for a vision of our future that's just a bit more hopeful than what we're looking at now.
Thank you so much, Zoe. That was really powerful and it's really great to hear what you're doing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so next we'll do a bit of a photo shoot. So I'll get Mick to take some screenshots of us all. So if everyone can look pretty, give us a big smile. Maybe we'll do a hands up for anyone who wants to fund our future and not gas, and hold up your signs if you've got any. So hands up to fund our future and hold up your signs. And we'll just have to stay here for a bit because there's a few pages, so. Brilliant, thank you so much. It's so inspiring to see so many people. Thank you, I think Mick's almost done. Are we all good, Mick? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone. And it's really great to see. I love all the everyone who's got their virtual background at the Geelong City Hall. That's fantastic. So thank you for that. Next, I'll read some of the chats out. I've also made sure to save some of the ones, some of the candidates and politicians, and also people who have relevant information like the SCEAT crew and Cleaner Coast. So I will make sure to post them on the Facebook page afterwards. So let's go through. There's a lot. There's been some great feedback. Where should I start? Oh, also, there was a couple of people I forgot to mention at the start. We have Kate Gazzard here as well. She's a council candidate for the Greens. And we've got Louis Hehir, who's also running for Geelong Council. And we have representatives from AYCC Geelong, and they've also helped with this event. So sorry for forgetting to mention you at the start, because you guys have been really great. Okay, so what have we've got, great to see put climate first people in council. That the dog has good taste, Neo. So thank you so much. That was awesome. Yeah, people complimenting our speakers. Everyone's been doing, like, it's really great. Thank you so much, because it is difficult to speak in front of a lot of people. And so Neo, Ben, Harper, Katie, Zoe, thank you all for preparing something for today and coming and sharing it with all of us, and to be able to hear what young people have to say and hear all your passion. So thank you. So there's a lot of that. Geelong Sustainability said, well spoken, Ben, there's more jobs in renewable than gas. Gas provides the least jobs and money invested in almost any sector of our economy. So gas-fired economy will not provide jobs or help us recover from COVID, merely make our climate problems worse. That's very true. That's people saying, great to hear about your work, Harper. Great to hear, thank you. And yep, more candidates putting information and their contact details, which is great. And again, I'll copy and paste them all onto the Facebook page. So after this call, you can go and chat to them if you'd like. Local action is where it all starts and leads to from little bit things, big things grow. An incredible song from Abigail. And yes, she is a local person. She's from Geelong. And also Aaron has sent her Facebook page in the chat as well. So if you want to go like that, that would send us some support. That would be awesome. Breathtaking, great. Great to hear from young people. That's awesome. That's what we're here for. Awesome. Tom said, great to hear a member of the Labor Party speak out against gas. Well done, it's brilliant. Gas is a capital intensive yet job poor. Although when burned, gas emits half the emissions of other fossil fuels, the leakage during the extraction process or from venting wipes out any emission gains. Gas is really, in reality, is just as dirty as coal. Very true. Despite being the world's leading exporter of gas, Australia earns next to no revenue from its own natural resource, under $2 billion a year. There's no economic, social or environmental argument to be made to invest in a gas-led recovery. Thank you, that's very well said, that's really great. Great to have climate first candidates. Great. Awesome. I'm just trying to pull out the most significant ones. Awesome. Yes, Zoe, ocean heat waves are not talked about as much as heat waves that impact our towns and cities, but incredibly damaging, including to seaweed, mangroves and coral reefs, etc. Many thanks for devoting your skills, passion and energy towards a better future. Yeah, thank you very much. It's really appreciate it. Awesome. Great. Well done to all the speakers. And Zoe says she's happy to hang around and answer any questions if anyone has them. Great work to all today. Fund our future, not gas. Awesome. Kitty Walker said, congrats to everyone. You've nailed it. The state and federal government could learn a lot from the action and vision being taken at local government level. Heartening that 70% of emissions we produce in Australia can be dealt with at local government level. That's an awesome stat. Important for us all to be as engaged as we can during these looming local elections. Brilliant. Household gas releases loads of methane as reported in the Sydney Morning Herald recently. We need our elected politicians to be as brave as our high school students. If you support the climate, please cross the floor rather than toe the party line. Sadly, fossil fuels will not, yeah, agreed. Sadly, fossil fuels will not change while we allow them to donate to political parties to influence policies. That's all very true. And that's what we're here to fight against today. So please feel, if everyone who's come here today, feel good that you've done something this week, this weekend, you've contributed to systemic change. Yeah, thank you so much for being part of that. Really appreciate it. That's awesome. So I think we will get Mick to play another song and then I'll do an official close. And if you want to hang around to ask our speakers questions, we can do that as well, but we'll do an official close afterwards.
People don't really understand it until you actually see it coming at you.
We are at a unique point in human history. Due to the scientific genius of men and women, we can either, on the one hand, improve the standard and quality of life of all mankind, or we can destroy the planet as we know it.
The time has come to say fair's fair, to pay the rent, to pay our share. The time has come, a fact's a fact, it belongs to them. Let's give it back. How can we dance when our earth is turning?
We have never lost so much property.
How do we sleep while our beds are burning? How can we dance when our earth is turning?
The Aboriginal community have had a long history of fire management.
When Aboriginal people first saw wildfire, they were stunned.
You've got to do the right thing by country, and you've got to support that country, and otherwise you don't have identity and you don't have a healthy landscape. You can't survive.
We burn grass when it's properly dry, but what we're going to do when the whole world's dry?
There's everything to be gained, nothing to be lost. And Aboriginal people had a history of achievement. Let's learn from them.
From Kintor East to Yudamu, the Western Desert lives and breathes in 45 degrees. The time has come to say fair's fair, to pay the rent, to pay our share. The time has come, a fact's a fact.
We've got each other.
belongs to them. Let's give it back. How can we dance when our worth is turning? How do we sleep while our beds are burning? How can we dance when our worth is turning?
What we gonna do when the whole world fries?
How do we sleep while our beds are burning? How can we dance when our worth is turning? How do we sleep while our beds are burning?
This is about the younger people coming on behind you. Are they going to have a habitable world? We've got to do our very best to ensure that they do.
How do we sleep while our beds are burning?
Thank you. That's a very powerful video. And I think, Mick, do you have the AYCC video ready? Or almost? That's right, we'll give you a minute. There's a few more chats. There's an event, Meet at Ocean Grove Coles to share the global message for Fridays for Our Future. They'll at 11:30. Yeah, so that's in the chat there. Great. And so if you're wondering what the bollards are, if you can see Caroline's screen, she's got bollards in the background, and they were all in the promotional video for this event, and as a COVID alternative to having lots of people with lots of cardboard people instead. So I think that's a great adaptation. Okay, brilliant. And again, someone puts a link to a video from Dr. Carl, who speaks about the decades of misinformation and campaigning against, the truth and the science coming out, and exactly how we can reach zero emissions by 2030. So that would be a really great video to watch. And once again, I'll put all of these chats onto, not all of them, but the ones with resources onto the Facebook page afterwards. So thank you for that. And Mick, are you ready now? In a minute? Yep, no worries. Did anyone have any questions? If you put a message in the chat, I'll unmute you so you can ask a question of any of our speakers, or and that's good, they must have covered everything. Wonderful to see you all here. It's so heartening to know, it's so heartening, and know I'm available to represent you at local government level. That's from Monica Winston. She's running for Torquay Ward in the Surf Coast Shire. Brilliant. Awesome. Yeah, I don't think there's any. Send a message if there's any chats that I missed, or thanks, Aaron. Brilliant. And also there's a link there to an interactive map of the Indigenous countries in Australia. I'll repost that. That's something that Aaron posted earlier. So if you want to check that out, that's very interesting and informative. And Sanya said that the Coles meeting is in Ocean Grove tomorrow. Oh, great. And Sanya is actually a climate scientist at Deakin. So if anyone has any questions to ask of a climate scientist, also, Monica volunteered you, Sanya. So, but you know exactly what you're talking about. So does anyone have any questions for a climate scientist? It's very exciting to have her here today. From Katie, Corona Cleanup Prizes. So this weekend, just take a photo, go pick up rubbish, take a photo and post it, and you could win 10 kilos of rubbish removed in your name. We've got Swell Cafe goodies, Ocean Grind goodies, clothes from the Common Good Company, which is really great. There's some really cool prizes. So please do that this weekend. From Neil, he says, we have known about the problem for more than 30 years. We now know that the solution and have the skills and technologies to solve the problem. That's very true, very good to keep in mind. We have the community will and energy and are motivated for a better future. We now need governments to act without any further delay and to stop putting their chosen sponsors first. We must continue to build support for change. Thanks, Neil, that's a fantastic message, thank you. Belinda's got a question for you. Oh, no, she just said thank you. No question. That's all good. We've got some Netflix recommendations. We've got Kiss the Ground on Netflix, and that's all about drawdown. Sonia, would you be able to talk about drawdown? Oh, I'll unmute you, sorry. There we go. Whoops. Oh, I lost you. Give me 1 second. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Cool. Ask to unmute. And then.
So drawdown is nothing to do with any of my research, but it's a collective research from a number of really big universities and organisations, where they established what the most contributing factors to climate gases and things like that were. And the number one, or they published a book, and there's the top 100 causes that contribute to climate gases and greenhouse gases. And surprisingly, and I didn't know this until I actually attended a talk, the number one contributor to greenhouse gases is refrigeration. So the number of times that we release our refrigerants, our air conditioning gases and things like that into our atmosphere, dumping our refrigerators in areas where the gases can escape, all of those things, that's actually the biggest contributor. But it's also transporting frozen goods from one country to another. It's cooling huge buildings in hot times that have been very poorly designed and things like that. There are, of course, all these other sorts of contributing factors that we already know of, and some of them that we don't actually realise. Zoe actually was talking about farting cows and farting animals. And yes, that is a large contributor, but it's certainly not the biggest contributor. So drawdown is how we can actually reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in a number of different ways, but it's also how we can eliminate or effectively remove a lot of the CO2 and other greenhouse gases that are already in our atmosphere. And the number one way we can do that is by planting trees and stopping removing any vegetation, stopping the destruction of agricultural land, because even though agricultural land is also a contributor, because ploughing will bring up a lot of the gases. If we can stop the old-fashioned methods of farming and introduce a lot of the new and more climate-friendly methods, we can actually achieve drawdown. So it's a fantastic book. It's written in really short chapters, so if anyone can get a hold of it, you only have to read 2 pages to know about one thing, so it doesn't lose your interest. And it's got nothing to do with me, but it was a fantastic thing. So drawdown is something that is something I think is of value for everybody to have knowledge of, and how they can contribute and discuss this sort of thing in a reasonable manner with other people.
Great, thank you. And we do have a couple more questions for you, which is great. From Claire R, she asks, will the melting in Antarctica affect Australia directly as we are so close?
Yeah. Short, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. How it's going to affect us, it's not only with rising sea levels, because everybody's aware of that, but it's also with the changes of the ocean temperatures and how that's going to affect our weather patterns. Our catastrophic weather that we've seen, you know, like I was just reading Point Lonsdale lost quite a number of the cypress trees, and I have to say I'm not sorry that the cypress trees are going, because they're being replaced by indigenous yellow gums, which is really lovely. But the fact that we're having these catastrophic wind effects, we're having these major floods, El Nino, La Nina cycles are not only exacerbating, but they're getting shorter. All of those are responsible, you know, or caused by the melting sea ice because of the changing ocean temperatures, and it's affecting all the weather patterns right around the world.
Thank you. We've got a couple more. We've got, how can we educate people on how urgent this is? That's from Belinda Moloney, who's put first climate candidate for council. To be able to answer.
There's a couple of ways. I've done facilitator training with the Wilderness Society, ACF, and a group called Shift. And Shift is starting an action from home. If you wanted to get into that, just Google Shift Australia. It's fantastic. But the number one thing you can do is to understand, when people are saying, well, why are you doing this? Try and understand where they're coming from. So instead of attacking them with facts and things like that, try and understand why they think like they do. And then try and be logical and reasonable, and not powerfully overt with them. There's a couple of books that you can read about. There's one called How to Talk to a Climate Denier, which is a really fascinating book. There's another one I'm currently reading at the moment by Sarah Wilson, who is the I Quit Sugar lady, but she's also talking about how to ask the beautiful question. In other words, instead of, you know, why are you using a keep cup? What motivates you to use a keep cup? What are the reasons you want to do that? You know, things like that. So asking the questions and talking to them on their level is the best way to talk to somebody and educate them. But it's also the face-to-face. It's initiating discussion. It's doing it with a smile on your face. It's doing it with a kind heart and with the right intention.
Fantastic, thank you. And we've got another question from Tony Gleeson from the Sustainable Hour. This is a good one. How frustrating is it for a climate scientist to have so little willingness from polls to follow the science? Please.
I take a lot of magnesium, Tony. it's a karma, and yes, it isn't easy. But I think that it's not just climate scientists. I think it's everybody who has a stakehold in the climate movement. Alex, you'd know how frustrating it is on your own level. Every politician, our wonderful students who have spoken today, you know, they're angry. Neo was so angry, you know, and so right with everything he said, and you know, Ben, and it was just wonderful to hear. Everybody's suffering because we just can't bang heads against the wall hard enough at the moment, I think.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that impromptu Q&A there, Sonia. Thank you for that. And it's such an honour to have a climate scientist with us today. There was a couple more chats. We've got the information about Drawdown, that resource there. And Vicky from Geelong Sustainability says she wants to encourage young people to ask questions at the Meet the Candidate forums for upcoming council elections, whether you're in Surf Coast or Geelong City, Greater City of Geelong, or Queenscliff, a Borough of Queenscliff Council. Make sure you engage in local politics and write letters to editors to talk about climate and your opinions on climate and the perspective of a young person. That's a really important thing to do. And AYCC has some great resources on how you can talk about climate with people, so have a look on Google for that. Also, Caroline's put her number down if you would like to be part of the Fridays for Future Global Action tomorrow in other areas. Great. Geelong Sustainability held a seminar about Project Drawdown back in March, so there's some information on their website there, and I've copied these across. So. And there's another thing from Geelong Sustainability, thanks Vicky, a blog about critical tipping points being triggered, now written by climate scientist Neil Plummer. Okay, fantastic. I think that's pretty much everything. So I will now get Mick to play the AYCC video, which is ready. Yeah, go for it. Thanks, Mick.
Hi, my name is Caitlin.
And my name is Aaron.
And we're both volunteers with the Australian Youth Climate Coalition, which is a grassroots organisation of young people under 30 who are fighting for sustainable and just solutions to the climate crisis.
We're also fighting for climate justice, as we understand that those who have done the very least to contribute to climate change are experiencing it first and worse. And we recognise that First Nations communities are leading this fight on the front lines.
We want to see a massive push for renewable energy and phasing out of fossil fuels from our government at all levels.
At the moment, we're campaigning alongside SCEAT, Indigenous Climate Youth Network, who are leading the fight against Origin Energy, who plan to frack for gas in the Northern Territory, despite not having free and informed consent from the Indigenous landowners.
Origin's plans to frack could produce more emissions than all of Australia's coal-fired power plants combined. We know that gas is just as bad for the climate as coal, producing a similar amount of greenhouse gas emissions per unit of energy.
Only 2% of gas needs to leak from fracking wells for any emissions advantage over coal to be cancelled out. Yet studies show up to 8% of shale gas leaks from fracking wells.
Offsetting the emissions produced by fracking in the NT would cost us $53 billion across 2030 to 2040.
Fracking can leak so much methane into local water sources that drinking water close to these sites can explode and also make the water more toxic, increasing the chances of negative health impacts on people who live near these areas.
These kinds of health impacts, plus what it will do to excel the climate crisis, is not worth any kind of profit, and we can't let it go ahead.
We've just experienced a catastrophic bushfire season in Australia. We've had red skies and smoke fill our cities and towns and our lungs from hundreds of kilometres away. We can't let this be our new normal.
And to add more flames to the fire, while placed with a perfect opportunity to invest in a green recovery during COVID, the Morrison government has chosen an unjust gas expansion instead.
We're tired of profits being put before people in a time of climate crisis. We're tired of our concerns being ignored, and we're tired of fearing for our future.
If you're looking for a way to get involved, please feel free to message our AYCC Geelong Instagram or Facebook page, and to assist us with our Origin campaign, you can take our special survey below.
Brilliant, thank you so much. That's fantastic. And thank you everyone. There's heaps of contributions in the chat, lots of resources and events, and it's really hopeful to see that there's so much that we can actually do to fight for our future. So thank you. We have Libby Coker said, please come to our environmental forum with the Shadow Minister. There's a link there about that. We are also talking about Morrison government's lack of support for environment protection, but for the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Act. Here's the link to register. That's fantastic. There's a wrap-up rally at 6 p.m. I will send the Facebook link in the chat for School Strikes for Climate, and also, So if you go to the School Strikes for Climate webs page, there's more events on today which you can join in on. So that's great, everyone. Okay. So awesome. So thank you so much for everyone for coming today. We will stop the recording in a minute or two, but please feel free to stay and chat if you would like to. We've got Neil Plummer here, who used to work for BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology. So that's fantastic if you'd like to ask any questions of him. But yes, thank you so much to everyone who's contributed today. Thank you so much for people who've turned up, who've shared, everything. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys are all feeling very hopeful and motivated to make systemic change. So thank you so much, everyone. I'd give a clap to everyone who contributed. So thank you. And yeah, so we'll stop the recording now, but please stay and ask Neil some questions if you'd like, or